What's up everybody, Slash here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vegito. Set 2 Vegito, that is. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. So, if you don't know the deck already, this is a good old Vegito. It's a very old leader, and this is just the collector's edition version of the leader. The deck in total, we're trying to focus more on mid-range rather than those one-offs that do like double strike and things like that. We want consistency over damage, because our damage comes from our later plays anyway, which is the paralyzing prowess. There we go, I got it. Then we've also got things like Hyper Rush, Super Saiyan Blue, Vegito. We've also got the Son Goku and Piccolo. We've got the Omega Shinrons. Yeah, we've got a lot of mid-range damage. If you don't know what the deck does, in very simple terms, it is turn 1, you're trying to charge Z energy. You want to get this on the field, or turn 2, preferably turn 2. Then you want to use the bottom effect here. It will allow you to awaken, so you can go to your front side here. And then from this side, what you want to do is you want to attack with this side first, before you Z awaken. You want to get a free draw off it. And then from that, you can Z awaken on top with this. Then from that, you can also use the ability again to draw another card. So you want to try and maximize the amount of draw you're doing. And then, of course, your plays for the deck in general are going with your Vegito Polymorphic Potara. What you're doing is you're paying 1. You place this in the drop from your hand, I believe. You get to play a Goku and a Vegeta, and then you can't play non-Vegito cards for the turn. And at the end of your turn, they would be removed from the field. So what you're doing is you're playing a Goku and a Vegeta, and then when you have this in your hand, you can free Union Potara on top. You get to draw 2 from this effect. So now you've got a 25k barrier Vegito, and then you've got these extra abilities here. One allows you to play a 7 or less from your deck, and that we'll get to in a moment. And the other one is play a 10 or less for 4 energy. So the 7 or less is this card. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that this stays in your deck. So if you end up drawing it, you've got your super combos from like the Reddit super combos to be able to bottom deck it. You've got other cards as well that will help you bottom deck it, like your Z leader's ability here, which is place up to 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, draw 2 cards, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and return it to its owner's hand, which is an amazing effect. Especially for a Z Awaken on turn 2 being a 15k double strike. It's very, very good. And then, yeah, so what you're doing from that is you get to bottom deck, you get to return a card to their hand, ignoring barrier. So you can keep those pesky fated rivals away from you. And then you can also, on top of that, be able to get a lot of draw, because you're going to Z Awaken, you're going to Awaken, you get all those draws from that, what we said earlier. And then from this, you get to draw 2. And then, of course, if you go with this on top, you get this effect. When you play this card, if your leader is a Vegito, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and up to 1 card in your opponent's hand and place them in the drop area. Then draw 2 cards. Then you may choose 2 cards in your life and add them to your hand. So it's up to 2. You don't have to. So yeah, you can get a lot of draw off like your turn 2, turn 3, whatever time you want to do that. But yeah, in general, we're running a lot of like 4K Gokus and Vegetas. We want to make sure that we see them often enough as well. It's also handy to charge them as energies as well. And you want to have summon to your Z energy, because they're just the easier cards to use. So what you're trying to do here is your turn 2, you're trying to set up for your Z Awaken. The turn 3, you're trying to go for your damage. So if you see this combination, you can do that. If you don't see that combination and you can't get that going, your other options are you go with Son Goku Piccolo. This will become a dual attack double strike 25k, and then during your opponent's turn, your leader gets an additional 5k for the turn. So it's just got a good defense for you as well. And because you're using Senzu Beans, you can boost that even higher. It's very, very good. These are very underrated cards, surprisingly, because they're very good cards. For 2 energy, I know it's turn 4 onwards, but it's still very, very good. And because you're a Z Awakening, your other option here is your Mega Shinron. This will become a 2-cost 30k triple strike, and then you get the effect down here below, which pretty much just allows you to minus battle cards and unisons, like a lot. It's very, very good. And then we've also got our Son Gokus here. They're our 4 costs that we looked at already. More or less, this can be a beat stick if you have Bond 3. This one doesn't have any effect, but it's a barrier, which is important, so you keep it on the field. Then we've also got the Saiyan Synergy here. You can use these as counters. I sadly can't use the bottom effect because you're not a blue leader, but that's okay. It's extra counters if you need to use it that way too. Then, because we're running yellow in the deck in general, we get to use Almighty Resistance. So we get ourselves a counter, which is very, very, very good. And because we run quite a lot of yellow things in general, you're going to see the combination of a yellow card in your hand with this often enough because of this reason. Counter. If your leader is red and you choose one yellow card in your hand and place it in your drop, negate the counter attack skill. So, that's why you want to keep all your mid-range big boys here, because you want to go swing for possibly game if you can, and then you want to use your counter so you can deal that damage. I am thinking about adding, I think it's like a 2-cost freezer. It's a critical card if you combo with it. Been thinking about maybe adding that, because if you go for like a good setup of turn 4, you could go with this, go with your counter for 2 energy, because don't forget this is free. So you're playing this for free. Well, technically you're paying 1 energy because you're paying 1 to play this, and then you play a card on top of it. So, alright, 1 energy for this. Then from that, you go with the big boy on top, and then when you go for a swing, you're going to pay another 2 energy. So now you're at 3 energy. You counter the attack. Then you would boost with the freezer, which would make 4. So you're going to go for a, 40k triple strike critical, and then you've still got cards you can boost with from your hand. So yeah, that's why I think it might be a good idea to add it. And then we've also got 1 after image technique. I think it's just handy to have 1 in general, because if your opponent goes, for example, something like a Cumber at you, a 19k dual attack, you're able to just -10 it, so you've just cut off their second attack for the turn as well. And then we were running Whis. This is such a good card. I was running 4, but I decided to go down to 3 because I found that running some Flying Nimbus and the 1 after image is actually pretty handy. This is practically like having a time magic for yellow for this deck. But yeah, 2 testing oppositions. It's just handy. We know the card by now. But the Whis, what it's doing is, if you have 4 more colors in your energy, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand by adding a card from your life instead of paying its energy cost. So this will be a 10k blocker. And that is very relevant because you're able to play this for free because we have a yellow card in our energy. You want to do that as early as possible. It's just such a good tactic for having this for your floodgates. Then we're also running 2 Flying Nimbus. I was running Topo originally because they're just good for when you're trying to play mid-range decks. However, I found that paying 2 energy and having to keep that 2 energy active really limits me from being able to play other things such as the Goku Piccolo, the Syn Shinron, or trying to get more of your Vegitos on the field, or Z deck, which we'll get to soon. But yeah, so I found that this was a lot easier, and it's just as good, really. But then we've also got our Reddit tier, Saiyan Youth. Of course, we can use that to bottom deck our Hyper Rush. And the other cards we have here is the Future on the Line Vegeta. So a great thing for this is when you have this in play, you can evolve on top. You get to draw 1 for doing that. And then when this card attacks, you choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and KO it. So we have multiple barrier removals in this deck. Then last but not least, we also have Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, the Savior. This card is a dual attack critical. The first attack for a 30k critical to your opponent, then it will restand, and then the second attack says when this card attacks twice, the same turn it gains double strike for the duration of the turn. So it means your second attack is going to be critical double strike 30k. And then of course for the Z deck we're running 1 Defender of Life. This is just handy because we have multicolor energy and we can easily just pump this out. You can make your opponent take a life. And this is going to have Barry for the turn. You'll be a 20k double strike. Then we've also got the Rush Attack. I mean, no surprise there. It's a good card. We should know it by now. And then, yeah, the Chain to help this deck make it work today. Then for other options, we also have in our side deck here, just other things you can play if you want to switch it out. So Flying Nimbus, you can switch it with Topos. You can take out your 3 Vegetas, and you could end up adding like 2 Hyper Rush and 1 Defeating Demon if you wanted to. So you can go for those 1-cost double strikes to your opponent. However, it makes the deck a lot more expensive and also a little less consistent for trying to make your bigger plays and having good barrier removal. Because we're trying to play it more slow. And personally for me, I'm a master, if I may say, for more mid-range plays. I'm not the best with aggro, personally. But I spend a lot of time playing mid-range, and I love mid-range since set 1. So I would have to say the way that this is built, focusing more on that and less on your double strikes for 1 energy, it works very well. But of course, you can easily try these out. I've done it before. I pulled it out of my pan, added it to this, gave it a go. It works well. And then for if you want to run green, you can also run this card. It's just a very good card. If your opponent switches an energy to active mode using a counter skill, place up to 1 card in your opponent's life and then drop. And then, of course, this is a 4K barrier that draws 1 on play. Very handy. And then we've got our super combos here you can also use. I didn't run these anymore because I ran into a problem more where sometimes you don't draw a red card, which means that you don't get the additional 5K combo. So that can really limit you. And then it's kind of feels pointless doing that. So I found that the Reddit's just works off better in general. Secret ID, great card to also run as well. It's got some field removal. 1 Violent Raise, I think, is more than enough if you're playing more of like a mid-range versus mid-range. And then this card as well, if you have at least 1 mono red, blue, green, yellow in your drop area and you have 4 more energy, you can play this card for free from your hand and it'll be a 35k. Then you can pay 1 of each color and this will be a critical double strike dual attack. So it's pretty cool. It's a cool little tech card, but I don't think that if I take out other cards to run more green in general so that there are green cards in my drop, that it made it that good. So I feel like it wasn't worth it that much, but it's an option if you want to go maybe cheaper as well, because these got reprinted. And then, of course, for Ultimate of Choice, I'm running Ultimate Force Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. I've had it since, like, what, set 2, set 3, I think. I got it. And, yeah, it's a triple strike, triple attack, 40k. And, of course, I can play it off this effect because of this one. Play a 10 or less from your hand. But if you have this one, it's a way better option to go with. So this is a 8 cost, which means you can play it for free using your Z Leader's ability. And when this card is played, choose up to 4 of your opponent's cards, switch them to rest mode. So that's also energy too. And then you get to draw 4, which is just crazy for it. So yeah, that is a much better choice. And if you do that, just take out 1 of these, because that way you're still running 1 of these and at least 2 of these. And then yeah, for the rest, that's practically it. So I hope you liked the video. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Thanks for watching. Peace.